Afternoon, folks. Me again, Shannon Fox here, Devoted Patriots 2 channel. And I've got a lot of reading to do for y'all. There's a story that broke about 14 hours ago on the Washington Post, just now got picked up by the Gateway Pundit. I'm going to read you from both articles, all that I know so far. There's nobody that has covered this with any kind of video format, any kind of YouTube video or Twitter feed about it, as far as I can tell. From everything I've been searching for. So I figured I'd bring it to y'all. It is pretty good news. It is definitely showing that the 2020 and the 2022 election had huge problems in the state of Arizona. It is Ms. Maez, Adrian Fontes, and Katie Hobbs are on the hot seat behind a phone call that allegedly happened. I have to say allegedly for YouTube's sakes, but the story has been reported. I will go ahead and tell you all about it, everything I do know. We all know what happened in 2020, 22 with Katie Hobbs versus Kerry Lake and how the election was run in such a crappy way. We know about the machines, wrong size paper. We know about the machines not being able to read the ballots. We know about the machines conking out in certain Republican districts. There's so many details that really kind of make it look like they cheat in Arizona. But truth be known, they're starting to be able to prove it, not just with those details, but with the number details. Because about 2 weeks ago, on the 19th or 18th, there was a ruling that the Supreme Court has now put out involving having to change the rules because there were people in the state of Arizona that were being registered to vote for about umpteen years without ever asking them the question were they a citizen or not. And so they were being able to get identification, being able to get vote, to be able to vote and everything. The question wasn't even on there. But I'll get into that. That's part of the whole backstory of this whole thing going on. This is actually a two-part story about what's going on in Arizona that leads up to an alleged phone call that they're caught with their hand in the cookie jar. They don't know what to do about it, and they're worried that if the phone call or the results come out behind this 100,000, it seems to be the big issue, 98,000, then we may want to rerun the election. That's words out of Katie Hobbs's mouth, allegedly. Now let's get into it together, folks. First off, let me just say, oh, there we go. It says there was, through investigations, a forensic audit by the state legislature after the 2020 election in Arizona. Numerous issues were documented and changes were recommended to be made to the Elections Procedures Manual to prevent problems they discovered. The state's chief election officer, Secretary of State Katie Hobgoblin, refused to make the changes. Governor Ducey sued her, but she still didn't make the changes in time for the 2022. And then the next thing you know, Katie Hobbs is elected governor in an election over which she presided as the chief election officer of the state. If that wasn't a conflict of interest, nothing was. I remember that clearly. I was so pissed off that they let her control her own election, basically, in so many words. She has been governor for 1 year. She has vetoed all election integrity measures passed by the legislature. You hear that, folks? Says, I don't think the people grasp how very unusual and problematic it is for a governor to have to sue a Secretary of State to make her do the job she's required to do by law. For that Secretary of State to run for governor using procedures of her own design and of which she retains ultimate oversight. Shame, shame. That was the 2022. For that Secretary of State to declare herself governor by certifying her own election. That should have never been allowed, without recusing herself in favor of a subordinate in any respect. For that governor then to veto every piece of election reform legislation passed by the state legislature. Basically, anything that they get done in the House and the Senate in Arizona, Katie Hobbs slams it so it doesn't go any further. Sad situation. That's just to give you a little bit of an update of what kind of person Katie Hobbs is, if you don't already know. Now, let me scroll down a little further here. Yep, that's it. We'll go straight into the backstory of the phone call. It says massive error in Arizona. Nearly 100,000 registered voters without verifying citizenship. Issue has existed for nearly 20 years. Now, this story come out on the 18th, just a couple, 10 days ago, let's say. It says in a so-called error in Arizona Motor Vehicle Department, the MVD, like the DMV here, in the system, the MVD system, which provides driver's license information to the state voter registration for their citizenship verification, has caused 97,000 voter registrations to be approved without verifying citizenship. This has apparently been happening for 20 years and was somehow not discovered until just now. This comes just days before the military and the overseas ballots are set to be mailed out Thursday. A little late now. Early ballots will be sent to voters across the state in October on the 9th. Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer announces on Tuesday that his office is suing the Secretary of State's office. He is the county recorder. Stephen Richer is. I think he is a rhino at best. He is definitely didn't help our election process last time. But maybe he's trying to save face. Maybe he's trying to keep his job. Maybe he's just trying to do this for optics. I don't really know because he's not on team Get to the Truth, as far as I'm concerned, from all his past shenanigans. But at any rate, he is now saying he's suing the Secretary of State's office for discovering a loophole in the state's voter registration system that Richard says for 20 years has allowed individuals who received a driver's license before 1996 to vote without citizenship verification. This issue has existed since 2004 when Arizona began requiring documents proof of citizenship to vote. License issued before Arizona required proof of citizenship to drive in 1996, regardless of the citizenship status, showed as proof of citizenship on file with the MVD. There's the problem right there. No matter what your status was, you were a citizen in their records. If that's kind of shady, I don't think that was an accident or an error. I don't believe that. I believe that was by design. That's the only way that would work. If a driver received a license prior to 1996, legal or illegal, he did not have to have a document proof of citizenship on file. But then, if he gets a duplicate license, in case he lost his, and the issuance date would be updated in the statewide voter registration interference with MVD. Basically, they say now if you go to renew your license, we'll catch you this time. Now, this is the backstory here to the phone call. This is between 97,000, 100,000, 98,000. I've heard somewhere in that neighborhood from three different uh, pieces of information. It says the Arizona Governor, Katie Hobgoblin, said in a statement after Recorder Richard brought on an erroneous voter registration record to my attention. He showed her the shenanigans. My team identified and fixed an administrative error that originated in 2004 and affects longtime residents who received a driver's license before 1996. She said, "Oh, we fixed it. We changed the rules. We fixed it." Says she became aware of the error after the directed the MVD to work with the Secretary of State to aggressively develop and implement a solution to the problem. Says after a closer look, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, the cartel lawyer, said that his office found close to 98,000 registrants whose citizenship went unchecked. They had no way to hide or deny this because this question was brought to their attention. And it's because of the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court says the U.S. Supreme Court upholds Arizona's law requiring you to prove you have to have citizenship to register to vote. And because that is the law, all these people need to be re-verified if they're a voter, if they're a legal voter, or if they're not. And that's the catch 22 here. Since we're out of time, but there was an alleged phone call, folks, of that just supposedly happened in the last 14 hours. Like I said, Washington Post broke this first. It says huge leaked conversation between Arizona Democratic Governor, Attorney General, and Secretary of State. That's the three top dogs of the state. Reveal attempt to cover up 98,000 voter registration glitches. Officials worried about calls for a new 2020 and 2022 election. Yeah, we don't want a new election. We want to look at the numbers without that 100,000 on there, since that wasn't actually illegal. Those shouldn't have been legal votes at this point because of the error. This is a newly leaked phone call between Arizona Democratic statewide office holder holders revealed how they scrambled to find a narrative before announcing a statewide error that validated citizenship of nearly 100,000 voters. They were trying to come up with a lie. It's going to validate all of their theories about illegal votings in our elections, said Katie Hobbs on the phone call obtained by Washington Post. They're going to be calling for a new 2020 and a 2022 elections as well. We're going to contest them. We know there was nothing right going on in Arizona due to all the BS that's happened. And she's afraid she'll lose her job as the governor there because she oversaw her own election being run improperly and allowed it to happen. And now the proof is coming out with the phone call at the least. But they were worried about it on the phone call. They didn't figure this phone call would ever surface. But uh, Hobbs was referencing in this 2020 2022 elections may have to be redone, referencing her own election that she possibly helped rig and steal from Kerry Lake in the midterms. I know you all remember that. Says Democrat Attorney General Chris Mays admitted that all of these elections are challengeable. Ooh, that's good news. As a result of the state not verifying voter citizenship. Does that mean when Trump gets back in office, like he said here in the last couple of days, he's going to vote? Going to take the people that created voter fraud in their states and their counties, whether they be politicians all the way down to the people registering illegals to vote. You will all be prosecuted. Does that include Katie Hobbs? That would be great. I would put her on top of the list because we know there was some shenanigans going on in that state from the rhinos and the Democrats running the state, running the elections, and basically running the truth out of town when it come to how elections were being run. They just suppressed everything they could. YouTube channels got destroyed by Google and YouTube and suppressed on Twitter for a long time behind the discussion about this very situation that happened. This and 100 other situations in Arizona, much less a lot of other states as well. But Arizona was definitely a hot mess, no doubt about it. So still, it is unclear who leaked the phone call. This could have been a staged phone call leaked to make it seem as though the officials were trying to do their job, trying to ensure election integrity. All three of these officials on the call allegedly won their election in 2022, where 60% of the machines failed on election day in the state's largest county, Maricopa, and hundreds of thousands of phony and illegal mail-in ballots were believed to have been counted. Notably, Katie Hobbs, the Secretary of State, was responsible for overseeing the election. You can't let the fox watch the henhouse, or you never end up with good results. Now, this here happened to be the best article, the original source article for the article, and it's a little bit long, but we're going to go all the way through it. I'm going to read it as well, if you don't mind, folks. If I can get these stupid pop-ups off of my screen. All right, hold on a second. I had a stupid pop-up just show up on my screen. Sign in again. Washington Post makes you sign in order to read their stuff. You believe that? That's some crap right there, folks. Apologize. Just bear with me. Make it happen. Oh no. Follow the link to your finish setting up your account. Now they're gonna make me go to my email. Are you fucking kidding me? Alright, here we go, folks. I'm gonna pause this and figure this out real quick. Alright, folks, back in business. I think I got the stupid pop-up out of the way. Alright, here we go. Let me jump back into it. Now, this here is the Washington Post, so they're gonna put their little bit of Democrat spin, left-wing media spin on the story, so you're gonna have to bear through that. But the truth is still in the story. It says On private phone call, Arizona top Democrats debated a dire ballot dilemma. Three state officials learned a computer glitch meant 98,000 voters had not provided proof of citizenship in a candid phone call. They had debated what to do. Not a candid phone call. It's a secret phone call. Get it right. Otherwise, the whole world will be hearing about it today. Says in Phoenix, Arizona Democrat leaders knew they had no good options when they jumped on a phone call this month. They had just learned tens of thousands of residents had been registered to vote for decades, even though there was no record they had provided proof of citizenship ever, a requirement under the state law and reinforced by the Supreme Court. Their predicament was an urgent, a dire. This was an urgent, a dire situation. Governor Katie Hobbs said, according to an audio phone call obtained by the Washington Post. Secretary of State Adrian Fontes said critics would beat us up no matter what the hell we do. Attorney General Chris May worried they would be accused of rigging the 2024 election in a crucial state. Well, of course they would if we could prove that they shenaniganed in the last go around, last two go arounds, and then still got the same problem. Of course, we're going to cry foul in 2024. Says changing the voting status of these Arizonan risk disenfranchises legitimate voters 6 weeks before the election. That's bullshit. Letting them vote as they had in the past could violate the law, even though the problem predated these officials by 20 years. It was on them to fix. And though it affected only state and local races, not I'd like to confirm that fact, not the presidential or senate elections, they knew after 4 years of attacks on the state election system that no matter what they did, critics would have ready made issues to seize on if they didn't like the outcome in November. They're basically saying they didn't tell us because they didn't want us to know because they're afraid we were going to bitch about it. You kidding me? They've already accused us once. We don't want to be accused again. Our credentials are already shot. When this goes public, it's going to have all the conspiracy theorists in the globe, in the world, coming back to relitigate the past three elections, at the least in Arizona, Katie Hobbs said. Wow. It's going to validate all of their theories about illegal voting in our elections, even though we all know that's not true. Sure. Says during the 40-minute call on September 10th, the three bluntly took stock on the scope of the problem. They believed it affected about 148,000 voters, but later lowered the estimate to 98,000. Uh huh. They knew the voting rights of Republicans, Democrats, and independents were affected, and they saw how the issue could erode confidence in the state election. No, they got caught. That's what that translates to. The voters skewed Republicans. The voters skewed Republican, and nearly all of them appeared to be citizens. But the group recognized the situation was politically explosive, given that the Republicans across the nation were already falsely claiming that massive numbers of non-citizens illegally vote for Democrats. Falsely claiming. Now we've got stats now, folks. There's a little more proof right there. They're sitting there trying to say it wasn't us. Well, they got their hand in the cookie jar on the facts. It's a sad shit, folks. I'm glad they're coming out with the truth. I would love to hear. I would love to get a full transcript of this phone call, or get to actually hear the audio of it. That would be awesome. Wonder if the Washington Post will drop that. Says the governor suggested that these voters would be given ballots containing only federal races because of the state law that bars voters from casting ballots in the state and local races if they have not provided proof of citizenship. I bet there is no checks and balances that prevents them from voting in any election uh, due to this error. I bet there is not. That's probably a lie. But Fontes and Mayes argued that the state could not disenfranchise voters in the race too close to the election. We can't make people verify their citizens this close to the election, otherwise they might not vote. They said requiring all these voters to provide U.S. birth certificates or other documents in the coming weeks would create a logistical crisis for the voters and the election officials who were already stretched thin. I'd be sending them letters out. If you were honest, you'd be sending them letters out, at least trying to fix the problem, at least trying to resolve some of that 98,000 number and find out how many of them are actual citizens or how many of them are illegals or dead that are voting every single time, mail in ballot, most likely, and they're not even be in the state or some crazy situation like that. Think about all the 82-year-olds in wheelchairs who are not going to be able to make it to the polls. Sure as hell aren't going to like it be able to find their effing driver's license or birth certificate in time, said Mayes. These people are covering up. The Attorney General, Arizonians, the U.S. Attorney, the Attorney General, Mayes, the Attorney General. I apologize, folks. I'm not used to reading this much in one term. Says Arizona this fall will vote on state constitutional amendment to ensure access to abortion and to decide whether Republicans hang on to their narrow control of the state legislature. This guy doesn't sound like a Democrat, does he? They're not going to do anything to help the Republicans in this race whatsoever. Says Mayes said the group would be accused of disenfranchising Republicans to gain advantage in those contests. So we're going to disenfranchise the Republicans that need to be proven that they have an ID. No, they're lying. The disenfranchisement is a smokescreen, gaslighting game. Truth of the matter is, these folks that are having these issues where they haven't voted, I guarantee you, these are Democrat votes, and they know it. Fontes, who led to most of the conversation, summed up their conundrum. They're going to beat us up no matter what the hell we do, no matter what the hell we say. We've already been caught. I ad libbed that in, but that's the way I feel about it. They've been caught and they know it. The numbers don't lie. Uh, the rules didn't apply. They should be backtracking on these people. Said a spokesman for Fontes on Saturday emphasized that voting by a non citizen is vanishingly rare despite claims of interest groups like NGOs and stuff like that. And figures align with the former Donald Trump. Mayes declined to comment, and the governor's spokesman, Kristen Slater, responds with a statement. From the beginning of the call, Governor Hobbs knew no matter what path forward it was critical to get legal certainty for any action taken by the Secretary of State. She's glad that approach has paid dividends and installed bipartisan confidence in Arizona's free and fair and secure election. They fixed the problem. Sure. I don't know what to think about this whole situation, folks, but it does look like they've been caught on the phone call. Says at the time, Hobbs was the Secretary of State and faced death threats as she defends the legitimacy of the outcome. Fontes was the recorder for the state most populous county of Maricopa. So Fontes was the recorder who ended up becoming Attorney General, while Hobbs was Secretary of State, ends up becoming the governor. You see what they did there? Uh huh. Wow. They're all working together, folks. Don't let these folks make you think that any of the three of these are telling on each other or they're actually care about election integrity in the state. The fact of the matter is, this has been brought before them in a legal situation, and they had to respond to it. And it looks like they've been caught. That's all I got for you today, folks. I believe that was about all that was concluded on the phone call. But as we know, what happened there. Uh, Mayes won her race by 280 votes. She beat out Abe Hamadeh for that job by 280 votes. Wonder if that 98,000 could have somehow swayed that election a little bit, possibly. And we know that Kerry Lake won in Arizona, but somehow or another, Katie Hobbs ended up with a higher number. One of those weird deals that only happens in places like the swing states. Says their call this month brought them together for the first time since they each took office in January 2023. I bet that's a lie. I bet they partied together. According to the two of the state officials, during the conversation, which included staff, they weighed options and had different ideas on how they're going to try to limit the damage to the public confidence in the election system. It's damage control. How can we prove that we're not crooks at this point, considering we done been caught? Crazy stuff, folks. Full article is on the Washington Post. They will make you go over here and subscribe. to their little thing, put in your email to be able to read their articles. Otherwise, they put up ad blockers in the way. That's pretty sad. They want your email to read their stuff. Not paying for your stuff, though. Sorry about that. I don't like watching the post that much, but occasionally it's a decent news source. But at any rate, Fontes and Richter asked the state Supreme Court to quickly give them an answer around the same time Hobbs announced a computer issue at the Division of Motor Vehicles that caused the problem had been fixed quickly. Soon after, the court issued a ruling that said that the voters' eligibility to cast full ballots should remain in place. Richard declined to comment. So basically, these 100,000 people still going to get to vote because of the time crunch. This should have been looked at and addressed a year ago, and we could have probably got some resolve on it because they were definitely involved in the shenanigans. But crooks are going to cover their ass and their fellow crooks' ass. That's just the way it goes, folks. Hope everybody enjoyed the information. Not that it was good news, but at least they've been caught worrying about the fact that they stole the 2020 and 2022 election. If by nothing else, knowing all the other factors, 98,000 people didn't have the right to vote if they haven't proven they were citizens. That alone says those 98,000 votes should be contestable, even after the fact. Just my thoughts alone. Tell me what you think about that in the comment section down below. Hopefully, everybody's having a great weekend. Over and out.